Cornelia, I'm so happy to have you introduce this topic for us. Will you please take us through it? The floor is yours. Just tell me when you need me to change slides.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm just going to go through with it as I planned. Um,
Okay.
so here goes.
Sorry, I lost you there.
Okay, no, I'm starting now.
Okay.
Okay. My chosen topic for this presentation is climate change and social work.
Yep.
Not the usual clinical type, but the type that is from ebooks, podcasts, videos, and mini shows on all kinds of digital and social.
Wait, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. Are the pauses me losing you, or is it you wanting me to change slide?
I think there was a pause that it was on my side. I think I touched the mouse or
Oh,
something.
yeah, I
Apologies.
heard nothing. I heard nothing apart from ebooks. So could you please start again?
Okay, no problem. So we are on the first slide, and then I
Yeah,
will let you know to change to the next slide.
perfect. That makes me happy.
Perfect. So you can go back to the first slide. Okay, thank you. My chosen topic for this presentation is climate change and social work. I've been reading up on a lot of occurrences due to the change in climate, and in so doing, I also noted a rise in therapy. Not the usual clinical type, but the type that is from ebooks, from podcasts, from videos, and mini shows on all kinds of digital and social platforms. Then I asked myself, what is the consistent denominator here in respect of the topics or the titles of the books being read? It's the weather, right? The weather remains the constant denominator. People are buying more and more self help books more than anything else because the weather keeps them at home. And right now, people are looking for a fast way to heal themselves, a fast way to get over their recent breakup or over their relationship or over their work failures, etc. The ever rising cost of living is also because of current climate. And we need to acknowledge climate change and its effects on people. People are going through uh, changes in lifestyle due to the weather. People have had to downgrade, and this causes some kind of stress with people. This causes some kind of mental ailment where depression then comes in, anxiety comes in, and not many people know how to deal with these things, and hence buying of ebooks online or listening to podcasts to attempt to alleviate these mental illnesses. Um, I remember I was watching an interview, or rather listening to an interview where Dr. Poppy Masinga, head of the social work and community development faculty at the South African College of Applied Psychology, he said that there is a need for social workers to operate across diverse sectors, which amplifies their influence across the nation. And the climate crisis exacerbates existing vulnerabilities, disproportionately affecting marginalized communities. Unquote. And this is also a quote that is very powerful, that reveals also how marginalized persons are affected by climate. I mean, we live in an ever changing and growing world. The more our human population increases, the more climate is affected due to our own human activities. For example, we use perfumes every day. This is CFCs into the air, car fumes, These go into the air, industrial pollutants. These are all adding up to the pollution of the ozone layer. The more UV rays or radiation the Earth receives, this is the more many people suffer deficiencies, many diseases such as skin cancer, and the Earth also suffers. The soil loses its nutrients, the land loses its water, which in turn causes drought where people and animals suffer the most. Hunger can cause anyone to commit crimes and begin a cycle of poverty. In times of extreme weathers, we've seen people become vulnerable the most. Slide two, please. So I'll take you to a little geography lesson back to school to look at what is climate change in the literal sense. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in weather patterns and average temperatures, leading to changes in ecosystems, sea levels, the weather events to which we can add welfare that calls for social workers into the eye of the storm. Look back in time. For example, Cape Town went through a drought crisis, and this was because of climate change. The sea levels had decreased, therefore also taking away from the dam levels and people having to go through the crisis of not having access to water, which is a basic necessity. People had to now make plans to buy water or go to the nearest spot where water is being shared. This caused a lot of stress. Not many people were able to reach those spots. So, for example, the elderlies never had access or could not go or walk miles to get access to that water. Anxiety, depression, again, which causes stealing because we need water, we have things to do, we have toilets to flush, children to drink water. It's a basic necessity. Stress, which then calls for social workers into the eye of the storm. This is where we are called to alleviate again these effects of climate change. Next slide, please. So, how does this relate to social work? Because of the increase of temperatures, there have been plagues of locusts that cover large pieces of land, destroying produce and crops that lay beneath them. This causes food shortages, job losses, leading to poverty and eventually crime. Look at the floods that occurred in KZN. So many people were displaced. So many lost their jobs due to inability to access the roads. Others lost their homes. Because of climate changes, new natural disasters occur where they weren't any. Because of climate changes, people had to look for assistance on how to move forward. Many sought community assistance, moral support, or just an ear to listen to the new realities that has hit them. This is where disaster social workers help clients deal with impacts of weather patterns or environmental accidents. This is where case workers will help their clients find new homes or lodgings or access water or access that information that they needed, etc., etc. Slide four, please. I believe that not giving attention to how climate and how widespread ecological changes affect people will escalate mental illness, and this will cause social and emotional damage. This will also make it even harder to address already unmet mental health needs. This will also endanger uh, uh, underscore rather the critical need for emotional resilience, social ties and civic capacity to act on and respond to climate and ecological changes will be slow because people are not aware or informed. People don't know how to go on with life after these new changes. So again, social workers or social superheroes come in. Developing countries are facing the brunt of climate change, and it is not just countries, but also classes and genders of people. We learned about this in some of the modules we did, and you will see that within or amongst the people of a developing country, the poorer are more affected. When we are suffering from the floods and droughts or any natural disaster, the poorer suffer more because they are the ones without a backup plan, so to speak, no access to basic amenities such as medical assistance or relief assistance. The poorer masses lose their livelihoods because they are the ones who depend on crops and livestock, and these have
Cornelia, we lost you again as you're building up.
in the case, but they are better because they are able to access assistance quicker, and they would still be able to go to the market, or ShopRite would be open the next day. The poorer take more time to recover from these disasters due to many reasons, where one of them is as simple as the lack of information. And this is where also you will see the digital divide that we go through here in South Africa, and also continentally. We see the digital divide where some countries have climate change alerts. You know, they receive alerts on their phones. There is a seismic wave of this degree, and you need to move or respond to this area, etc. So we don't have that. We need such things so that we can also be aware. What can we do as social workers or their auxiliaries? We can make environmental education compulsory. Look at countries like India, countries that go through certain disasters, climate changes at an extreme level, or even just a little shake. They have um, compulsory environmental education, which keeps them aware, which gives them an idea of what to do when this happens, where to go when this happens. Now, according to gender, how we are affected in the classes according to gender, among the poorer people, women are the ones affected the most. Without bringing in children, women are affected most during and after any climate change or environmental disaster because women are the glue in the family. They are the ones who need to make a plan when there is no plan. They are the ones who, even in single households, they are the ones who need to pull their weight and make sure the children are fed, or maybe the brothers or the parents are fed. For example, we are experiencing again abnormal weathers in South Africa, hot days, cold days, rainy days, etc. These uncertain weathers is what destroys fruits, our food supplies, our grains, our seeds, where produce rots quicker and becomes more expensive or unaffordable. And women are the ones finding it difficult to upkeep the home, to upkeep the basket, so to speak. And then when we look at the male gender, climate change puts them on their back as well, as they work mostly in the construction sector where they do not have basic amenities such as offices and areas of rest or break. And most of the times, um, many construction companies they close down when the weather is bad, when climate has changed and it's so bad. And because of the weather and the change and the stopping of working, these men are not getting any wages. They are not getting paid because again, they mostly get paid daily wages or weekly wages. So, what answer do we give these men in cases where they cannot work, where companies have closed down? You take again ice cream factories, they only function during summer. winter they are closed down and selling all stock out. You look at juice factories, they shut down during winter and then reopen again. These are months where people have to make plans, months where people have to go and look for uh, extra work, so to speak, to cover up for the months that the companies are shut down. So what do they do? These are where then man must do what man must do to survive or feed his family. And you find men on the corners trying to get jobs. And then you will find also men start conning people. These tricksters on the streets, taking advantage of the old mummies or the people who are so not aware of what a con is, and you find that they start stealing. Simple little stealing here, there becomes then a habit. And this then becomes kleptomanic. And you can't stop it. They can't stop because it's the only thing they know. And again, it becomes a chain reaction because this is what their wives are seeing, this is what their children are seeing, and they carry on whatever the parents are doing for them to be able to survive. So, as social workers, we must provide awareness. We can do the research required to inform and educate communities on the possible outcomes due to weather. In general, climate change has an effect on life mentally, physically, and holistically as the human being. Making environmental education compulsory at secondary or high school level is or would rather be a very good idea on government part. Next slide, please. So, what is environmental justice? When all people equally experience high levels of environmental protection and no group or community is excluded from the environmental policy decision making process, nor is affected by a thank you, by a disproportionate impact from environmental hazards. Environmental justice affirms the ecological unity and the interdependence of all species, respect for cultural and biological diversity, and the right to be free from ecological destruction. This includes responsible use of ecological resources, including the land, water, air, and food. We can see how, for example, the Khoisan people had lost their nomadic ways and had to adapt to the ways of staying in one place and not being able to move around or freely go roaming or grazing with animals and catching animals as they would. That also causes kind of a anxiety, a depression of sorts, because they are unable to freely live the way they know how. And again, also, the injustices that a lot of African people have had to face or go through, losing land and not being able to have land where it is so expensive. Many people are unable to cope with that. Many people will start off very well in life. They will buy the house, they will buy the car, and sometimes bond hits you the wrong way, you lose everything. Mental illness where people literally lose their minds in they don't know how to cope, because it is something also in the African family that is unspoken of. Mental illness is very unspoken of, and then we just hide it, whereby it comes out in our conversations where we say demeaning things, we are mean to people, and our words hurt people. And this is all coming down from climate change. The weather disrupts everything. People are displaced. People have had to cope with their new realities. Um, Tectonic plates are moving. There are more earthquakes. We've experienced earthquakes now in South Africa as well. Things that should not be happening normally, are now happening. This is the new reality. How do people cope? or how are people coping, and what are communities doing for the community for it to thrive again if it went through a drought or a flooding. What are they doing? What did we do for the people that experienced flooding in KZN? How are they surviving today? Are they all back at work? Are they healed if they went through injuries? Um, are they back to normal? How are they dealing with these things? These are things that social workers and their auxiliaries can go into and read into and also explain to the people, acquire clients, and assist them in their new realities. Next slide, please. There are many people in South Africa who are owed land to date. We have courts also to assist with this. When a people have owned land for generations, that land is theirs by right. You know, so this is where also, according to the United Nations, the temperature of the Earth has risen by 1.1 degrees Celsius since the end of the late 19th century. The decade of 2011 through 2020 was the warmest on record. And this is also when we saw the droughts. This is also when we saw the flooding because the frequent weathers also they were so harsh. Also in Cape Town, we saw wildfires coming in Cape Town and people being displaced, losing their homes, losing their crops, losing their sustenance, etc., etc. And this is where also we come in environmental justice wise is that which applies in situations out of nature that directly affects people and their ability to function at optimum level. People cannot think properly when it's too hot. People do not want to work when it's too cold. So these are also things that we need to provide to a people coping mechanics. They start at a young age where they are unable to cope with the extreme weathers. And this causes also misunderstandings in the home because I'm not okay. This weather is not treating me well, or because of this weather, I have dizzy lapses, and people think I'm faking my dizzy lapse, or people say my heart palpitations are not something I'm supposed to have because it's just weather. People cannot cope and they don't know the effects or how they are affected by weather changes, and so they go about their day and wonder why my mood is changing all of a sudden or why I'm being affected in such a manner. We as human biology, we also go according to the climate change. We also go according to the lunar cycles, especially for women. Our cycles, they go with the moon. They cycle along with the moon. So we must also consider that as something that affects the woman in a sense of her mental health. Women tend to go through four different types of emotions through the month. They are happy, they are sad, they are overjoyed, or extremely bored, or extremely in their emotions. And so these also affect people around them, especially those in their immediate surroundings, like their children or their husbands, and this also causes friction. So all these things we can say have been coming from the environment people are in. They say that you are your environment, you are what you eat. The more educated a woman is in a certain community, the more that community thrives. So all these things we can say stem from climate in a sense, and giving attention to climate change and social work, putting it together will be a bubble of glorious attention. Next slide, please. So, what can we do as social workers? What can we do to bring about a change or awareness? We can introduce newer concepts to revive interest, to let people know, hey, that geography you were learning, it's not just for fun. It wasn't just point A to B. We can explain complexities of any crisis. If this happens, this is our point of assembly. Like we have a fire, these are points of assembly. When we have a flood, these are the highest points in the country, when or in the area. When we have this, we can do this. People must know what to do. Include environmental concerns in discussions on urban and rural poverty. We should not go in there and say maybe we need more toilets, or we need more books, or people are being deprived of their human rights, etc. We should also go in there with our environmental injustices that cause people's unhealthy levity. We should encourage people's understanding, acknowledge that climate justice is embedded in human rights and dignity. How can we live in areas where they are overpopulated, in areas where our homes are dilapidated, where our access to basic amenities is near impossible? How can we do that? And then we are surprised when there's a flood. We have so much damage. We have so much loss of life. We have so much loss of capital in livestock, capital in crops, capital in jobs. It it all goes and trickles down, or rather snowballs into many other unmet ailments or problems and issues. We can remember how the youth are uniquely impacted because the youth have no access to land, which we cannot say, hi, I'm South African and I'm proud South African. How can you be so when you do not have land? How can you be so when you do not own a house? We need to make people aware that security does not only lie in having education, having access to this, having access to this. We must remember that climate can snowball all these things and break down everything you have worked for over 10 years to acquire, to build, or to have. We can develop programs that are reflective of and responsive to climate change and those affected. We can have group meetings where we meet with communities, individuals, groups, where we discuss what we can do, how we can go about changing the new reality that has hit us, and where are the safe zones. Because with the change of weather, there comes also diseases such as it has just escaped cholera. Boom. There are diseases such as cholera that come with flooding, that come after excessive water, after drought. There are diseases that come from the soil, that endanger the soil. When we plant our seeds don't grow. They take long to grow, and when they take too long to grow, most seeds die, and therefore people can suffer a shortage of food because of that. When you look at the surviving marginalized communities, they have gardens outside their homes. They have fruits, and they have different types of trees in their homes. That's survival. That's nature helping you to survive. So if the soil is destroyed because of acidic rain that has become a norm, how else are we going to grow food? When food has escalated to prices that we cannot even comprehend. Next slide, please. Impacts on humans. It is important to note that the term environmental justice applies not only to people who are impacted by climate change, but also to people who have been exposed to man made ecological damage. For example, contamination of natural resources such as air, land, and water can be tied to industrial pollution. Agricultural practices have been contributed to significant ecological damage, such as deforestation, desertification, loss of crop diversity, and toxic levels of chemicals in our food, which in turn causes people to get sick and call upon public health social superheroes. Next slide, please. Solving the problem. Social workers at all levels of practice can work to address these issues. This holds true on all levels, from micro work with individuals, groups, and families to implement practical strategies to address their immediate needs through meso work with community engagement and organizing to the macro level of institutional and policy change and research. Next slide, please. Just to explain also, at the meso level, adaptation, very important, includes planning responses in advance of negative environmental impact, both for situations that are likely to arise and existing situations that may worsen. This we see in erosion of soil, we see in the change of our soil where it becomes thicker, and when rain falls, the earth on top, it becomes almost hard, almost cement like. Nothing will grow from there. What can we do uh, to respond to this environmental impact? It is here that social workers can help to build climate resilience through improving coping capacity on a community scope. Start planting community gardens, where I've seen in small communities. Also, when I was reading up on some research, I saw how they have little greenhouses but made with plastic. They use plastic to make these huge little green houses, and they plant in there. This protects their produce from the weather, from different insects as well, and also birds that will feed on the seeds or the fruits of their labor. So that is very important, something that we can encourage in communities, more of that. And then when they do that, how is it distributed? Is it fairly distributed? Which kind or what kind of homes does this food go to? The old age, the people with single parent homes, or those that do not have working individuals. So those are things that social workers, we need to also get into when we are coping with climate change. At the micro level, treatment involves addressing the immediate physical and mental health needs of individuals during and after an environmental event. Here is where social workers use their case management and counseling skills to work with the individual needs of their clients. As much as we can all go through the same disaster, the same natural disaster, but the effects of that disaster are different on individuals or certain communities or certain areas, even, hence also classes, where you will see people in Santon, if they had to go through a flood or a drought, they would survive. They have insurance. They can have access to building or accessing, maybe what you call those, drilling boreholes. Boom, they can have access to boreholes where it's so expensive to drill boreholes. 25,000 in Santon, easy peasy. Whereas come to the locations, 25,000, hey, that's the income nearly of the entire location. So again, access, and on a micro level, we need to also try and manage and assist in that, in the ways that we are impacted. That's the solution and mitigation strategies. Next slide, please. A changing environment requires transformative social response, new partners, deep engagements with local communities, innovations to strengthen individual and collective assets without an understanding of the reasons for the positions of all parties. These solutions will be difficult to identify and implement. So, social workers play a big role in policy and advocacy to limit further environmental damage and eliminate environmental injustices that people feel. So, what qualities must social worker possess? Ooh, empathy and compassion, ethical integrity, very important because we are going to be meeting, or we do rather meet and speak with different people from different backgrounds. So ethical integrity is very important so that the other person understands me as much as I understand them, or rather I let them know I understand you. Cultural sensitivity and diversity, again, we live in a different world where people come from diverse cultural backgrounds. Um, without going into many cultural differences, but we need to be sensitive. And how can we be sensitive? And um, we can do so by acknowledging the difference in culture. Okay, my brother here is European. How do Europeans act? The French normally kiss on the cheeks, mwah, mwah, in greetings. Some people find that out of character, offensive in a way. But if you were to act otherwise, it would be offensive for the French individual. Some people will come in greetings where they hug and they will greet each other compassionately. People, some people, you'll find that they like their spaces, you know. So strong communication skills again important so that we are able to reach out and we are able to understand different people. Problem solving abilities because we are coming across different kinds of problems. Resilience and emotional well-being. These are found very important. Number six, because we don't only need to take care of our clients' resilience and emotional well-being, but our own as well. Um, we need to try also be healthy in our emotions when we are interacting with our clients because some people we come across with difficult situations and getting too attached can become problematic, and that is where also we might go against our principles and our rules and regulations of being a social worker. Advocacy skills very important because not many people are aware of climate change and how it affects us, and how social workers also should um, give this attention. So advocacy skills on that is very, very important as well. Adaptability and flexibility because, well, life is different in different areas. Teamwork and collaboration, very important when disaster strikes. Teamwork and collaboration, we need to know how to move, where to move, and keep time as well. Patience and persistence, because any situation we cannot time it. There's no timing a situation that from point A to point B, this disaster would have been completed and done with. Next slide, please. So we have come to the end of my presentation. As social workers, as communities, as individuals, groups, as companies, we need to work together to keep our planet and our people safe, mentally, physically, emotionally. Thank you.
Cornelia, that was amazing. Thank you. That was so well put together. Thank you for the presentation. What's fascinating me, so geography is way out of my zone, right? The weather's all magical. So to have somebody bringing it together was great. I like the way you moved between the two levels. One of it being very advocacy and almost theoretical, and the other one being more towards what we would call acute or immediate relief, and how the social worker has to balance both of them. Tell me, have you seen any initiatives in South Africa that do bring this forward, that are fighting for advocacy for people in this type of field?
There are some people that are recognizing it as a thing, but to know organizations, I haven't seen organizations as yet, or I haven't read. There are organizations outside the country that are making us aware of the changes. And most of the information I acquired also was international. Then I had to look at our own happenings, our own events that could relate to the similarities of what they are talking about.
It's quite fascinating because I think you've opened up such a lovely field for yourself to give this talk and presentation at other places, and to position yourself as an activist in this space. It is something that I think you actually quite enjoy talking about also.
Yes.
Right. Tell me, when, just before I ask the question, I was fascinated when you said, other countries get SMSs and stuff, they get notices of weather. And I thought, actually, yes,
Yes.
yesterday I got an SMS, everybody got an SMS in the country and a notice about a specific storm that was coming that was going to cause some severe winds. And it's actually provides so much comfort for us to know, like, okay, this isn't just the gods that are angry, but we can do something to prevent,
Exactly.
like get your car out of the hail. And I think insurance companies do it, but for the wrong reason. But they do it to protect investment. I think the focus
True.
on
To
human life
profit.
and human comfort should be key. All right, so if you had to select something and the next, let's say I said, you know what, tomorrow you need to take the first step, right? What what would that step be towards, using social work to combat climate change? What would that step be? So like, what's the first thing people can do in this field?
Take note of weather. I would again say advocacy on the climate change. The more maybe we should advocate it for it to be a subject from a grade level, because not looking at it as geography per se, but as things that can be done in certain or specific disasters that occur in your specific area or specific country. Not many people know how to react to an earthquake, simple as an earthquake. People will need to Google. I asked my son, he's 13 this year, how do you react to an earthquake? If there's an earthquake, you say, run outside, but then what
Honestly,
happens
he's
if you
reading my mind. And we had an earthquake here 2 weeks ago. And my first thought was, should I get outside? So I fully get it. Anyway, what is the correct answer? Teach us whilst you're at it.
It depends in where you are. Where you are. If you're in a tall building, you can. It's outside is not your immediate access. If outside needs you jumping out of the window, obviously you cannot do that. But if you can stand under a what you call a door post, you can go under a table. You can go inside a bathtub. Those are first and foremost reactions. A bathtub will protect you if the floor should give way, you have landing, a safe landing. If something should fall on top of the bathtub, bathtub is strong enough to hold some weight, which will give you either access to scream for assistance, access to I don't know, easily get out or maneuver in certain ways, or keep you safe until help arrives.
That is fascinating. That is
Yeah,
fascinating. I'm thinking of like
yes.
when the tremors come through, I just assume if it's my time, it's my time. But I really like the empowered approach that you're taking. And I think you're
Yes.
giving a good voice to something. Yeah. And the starting point of notice first and then speak. I like the way you brought education into it, and you brought education into it in two ways. You said that, there's the formalized thing of like talk about it at schools, fight for it to
Mm-hmm.
be a thing that companies are aware of. And then
Yes.
which I thought was quite important, but more importantly, you then spoke about included in activist discussions, included in discussions with communities, that
Mm-hmm.
they see the impact that, living off the land is having on them,
Yes.
right? And I think that's the key, maybe. I think we see climate change and activism as something that happens apart from everything else. Like either you support HIV, AIDS,
Mm,
babies, or climate change. And it's not necessarily that. It's something that actually can be included in each of those discussions. Um,
exactly.
yeah, like we do with education, where every education lesson will include something about children with disabilities because it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a reality and it's there. It doesn't mean it's the only education. And I think
Exactly.
that's quite key also. So I did like that. I did like it. What challenges did you face when you were doing your research?
Challenges when I wanted to have interviews in the presentation, but most people, as my son, they don't really know how to react in
Mm,
certain situations. You know, they have the basic runaway answer or call someone. They forget that lightning can strike down your lines. They can strike down your fiber lines, and there's a complete blackout. What do you do? Not many people had a good
so
answer
you
for me.
always need a go bag. Yes,
So
100%.
um, I found it difficult because it's not something I could have a nice interview with anyone I had access to. I didn't want it to be I give you a script and then we just go according to a script. I wanted to know what you already know, and that
Mm,
is what gave me the concept of advocating it more, because not many people know how to get over um, an incident or an environmental disaster. No, not many communities have locations, where people can gather. That is why people suffer a lot also when something happens. They don't know where to go. And then you have to look
mm,
for a school or a hall where people can congregate. That's not how it should be. When something happens, if it's a drought, you should get ABC at this point. Government schedules always change, and I don't know why, but they always are inaccessible to old people and to children. I wanted to have conversations with the aged and the young, because when they go fetching water, how do they manage? Who brings them the water? Or what plans do they make? Because these young kids, they queue for hours and then they don't get water. Some of them don't get water, and then
mm.
you have to go back there. Children cannot be up and down. Again, the old age also cannot be up and down. I did get a chance to speak to a pastor here in Tukumsres in Randfontein, Pastor Randy. You know, when we had the water crisis, um, the aged did not get water. There were people who were not even getting water, and some of them got sick, where they even started fights, where some of the youth were fighting because they wanted water. They started looting because they wanted water. So that is what also I didn't have much conversation, because I didn't know um, how do I say, go about um,
Mm.
bringing it out of people without telling them the answer myself, you know? So a
Yeah, and
lot
that
more
speaks a
people,
lot to it.
yeah, so a lot more people need that conversation. A lot more children need such conversations, to access information will give us so many answers to a lot.
Yeah, I fully can see the value to it. You know, I look at yeah, in Portugal we have a because earthquakes are so prominent here, we have an earthquake simulation center that you can go to, and what it does is it teaches you about it. You know, like this is how it feels, this is what happens, and that is quite cool. I mean, a lot of people do it just for fun because it shakes you up a little bit, but there is a
Right.
passive education element to it. I think, Cornelia, based on this, I would like you to do two things with this presentation. Number one, I would like you to actually engage in the research, right? So, you know, for your social work, you need to do a set of research. So it's a presentation, a group, and research when you finish qualifying. And I'd like you to focus in on your research.
Yeah.
Maybe run a quick study that shows how many people are prepared. You know, you can do a questionnaire. How do you respond? Mark the questionnaires and let us know what is the level. What is the emergency literacy level or climate
Yes.
awareness literacy level? You know, create that tool where it's 20 questions and you're testing different literacy within climate. And then I would also like you to reach out to the African Development Bank as well as UNICEF,
Yes.
right? And I'll send you, no, do I have those contacts? I don't think I have the climate people contacts. Probably like Greta Greenberg at Gmail. Anyway, and reach out to them and say, I've got this presentation and I want to present it because I feel like you're making yourself a good starting point name within this field. And
Wow.
it's a field in which I think you should. It's worth asking them to pay you to present it to communities. I think that would be great. It's just as I look at this presentation, I think like this could become a project.
Wow.
And you
Thank
should
you.
definitely follow through with it. All right, so I've spoken more than enough. Are there any other questions, or let's engage a bit with this topic that she has presented today? So let's check.
Yes.
Jackie, what are your views on the presentation? What are you leaving with? What did you take home, and what did you like to ask?
The one excellent presentation. Thank you, thank you. What I was wondering is a little bit along the lines of what you were just saying to her is if you could sort of design a project right now that you could do right now, in order to take this forward, what would that be? What would that look like? Would it be in education? Would it be in a specific area? Would it be to a specific group of people? Because you've talked really broadly about all the different impacts and all the different people groups affected. I would be curious to know, where would you start? Like, which particular group would you start with?
I would be, well, I already thought about it actually. I wanted to start it at a grade level, grade 1 to grade 3. This junior phase is 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 where they learn best. You know, we can create songs. There are songs on climate awareness, you know, and children at this level love singing. Little theater shows, you know, create little theater shows that can appeal to the different ages of these children. And then we can teach them the fun way. For example, we used to merry-go-round or ring a roses, etc. We can now also make up songs. When this hits, what do you do? Where do you go? Who do you call? You know, simple things that can ring and stick to a child. So definitely grade 1 to grade R, actually, grade R to grade 3 is the ages that I would like to approach. They will hold it for life, you know. Once you catch them, you feed it to them, you nurture it to grade 3. It will be embedded in them. It will be a reflex to them. You know, like when you say ring a roses, who does not know to get in a circle and start going around in a circle? You know, when you say London Bridge is falling down. Hands are up. Who wants to be the bridge? And we go, just like that. That can also be something that is carried on in the rhyme sense. It can live on in the rhyming sense, and children, as they grow, they will always, there's a song for that. When there's a flood, there is this. When there's an earthquake, there is this. So what do we do? What do we do? Yeah, I was actually working on a song. It has what do we do in it.
I love that so much. I think we're going to have to ask you to present your songs in the next presentation. But also what could be so interesting to do is, if you're working within a specific community, is to find out what the climate problems are specific to that community. Like if it's a place where they get a lot of flooding, to
Right.
teach children not to cross a flooded river,
Right.
to teach them how to rescue someone from a flooded river, to teach them how to sandbag their house or whatever it is. And likewise, if it's in a
Right.
high fire area or a high wind area or high storm area, to teach them this is what you can expect and these are the ways to keep safe, I think would be amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's incredible
definitely.
how many children drown in flooded rivers, and I
Mm,
find it absolutely devastating because they think, oh, it's not so bad, it's just that, and they have no idea that the power of the water will just take them. And so yeah, I think that's a stunning idea.
Thank you for that. And just to add on to that, also, Jackie, there were incidences here in South Africa where um, children had drowned in simple drains, drains where maybe were broken, and then there's rainfalls, like the rains we've been having, and children are trying to cross a simple street. You find the water takes them, throws them in a drain, and they're gone. So there've been such instances as well, which you don't find them being spoken about. They don't, it's not seen as a thing, or maybe it has not happened many times for it to be a thing.
No, I really think it happens more often than not. I think we've just become relatively powerless. We feel powerless at least about it, and
Right.
I think that might be the problem there. All
Yeah,
right.
true.
Okay. Shaki and Sophia, I see you guys have joined us. So you're not supposed to be fasting.
Good evening. No,
Hello.
I actually finished our program quite early so I can get the back end of this lesson.
Yeah, I don't know
But
how much you got of it. What did you
I got
catch sort of from where? Because I would love
I
to have
got
your
enough.
feedback.
I got enough to know that I must have a solid bathtub, and my mattress
Yes.
must not be on bricks. So yeah,
Good one.
and I assume it's about disasters, earthquakes,
Yeah, we would. Yeah.
and floods, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we were looking at what
Is it
impact
correct?
climate change has. Well, we were looking at impact of climate change on social work,
Oh,
which is, I mean, you got the practical bit. That is
okay.
what's important here. You got the practical gist of it, and I'll take that for now. I think that's a level to it, which I'm fine with. Okay, perfect. Is Sophia with you? Shaka?
Affiliation.
Sorry, say
Thanks.
that one more time for me. Have we lost him?
Oh, I ask a question.
Yeah, I was like, it's Sophia with you. I want to greet her. Hello?
She's not with me.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, that's perfectly fine. With that, I am more than happy with this presentation. I don't know, Elizabeth, if you have any questions. I know you're also not feeling very well at the moment. So I didn't want to put you on the spot too much. She's fighting off a flu. But do you have any question that comes to mind? I'm going
Sorry
to assume
about
she has
that.
lost her voice. Oh, there we are. Hello.
Yeah, my network was flying away.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for this presentation. I think it did more than what I would have probably done in the classroom. You've achieved a lot here. I'm very, very, very happy with it.
Thank
So
you.
far, I'm very proud of like all our student work. I think you guys are doing the most phenomenal things, and I'm glad to see these little projects grow from it. Right. So for the next lesson, I will probably then be presenting. We can't just do student lessons forever. And then we'll plan our next presentation based thereon, because then everybody will be able to attend again, and then we'll have Sophia and another student present for us. Okay, perfect. With that, I'm going to wish you guys all a beautiful evening, and I'll
I
see you
do
guys
have a
again.
question
Oh,
though.
yes, of
Sorry.
course, of course.
Before you go,
Mm.
in terms of the practical work,
Mm.
I wanted to ask, do we have to register with the SA?
SASWIP.
Yeah,
No.
or is it
So
later on?
let me explain registration. A lot of people rush to register with the different councils or with that council
Right.
specifically. And the problem is that many people who start studying don't necessarily finish studying. All right. So the council
Mm,
isn't interested in having a whole load of people there who at the end of the year have files and they have changed courses or done something else. Right. So finish your qualification first and then take that step to register. Right. There's no
Makes
work
sense.
that you'll be actively doing at the moment that will require you to be registered at the moment. It's also a bit of a
Right.
waste of money to register and not actually be benefiting from it. So that's sort of my advice on that front is don't go down that route yet. First finish the qualification. We can work from there.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Any more for anyone?
If we are job shadowing, is there anything specific that they need to be recording or keeping dates?
So I can actually ask admin to send you the list. It changes every so often. What you should have primarily is your attendance register where you sign in and out. That is
Yes.
first and foremost. And then that's pretty much it. That's what stays consistent throughout. But there is a workplace guide, which I will try and get the latest copy from you. It's just changed again within the last few weeks. So we'll have to
Okay.
get the updated copy. And that usually has like sort of what you're expected to do. But what will always be there will be a group that you're expected to run, a research project, and a presentation. So you've done one portion of it.
Awesome. So I need to get the group and
Yes.
what else was there? Workplace.
And the research.
Oh, research. Got
Yes,
it.
100%.
And then my
if you have any
research, is
questions
it
on that, I will
according
guide
to
you.
the group work?
Well, it's up to you. You're going to pick a topic and you're going to research. I prefer if all three of your assignments sort of like, I think it's easier. Like now you have the presentation. You have a research question based out of it, right? Which is community preparedness, right? And then you can have a group where you do a 6-week group with children in a community, teaching them about different types of disasters and how to manage it. You understand what I'm saying? It's nice if they all flow together,
Yes.
because then you build yourself a very good portfolio for later.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
right? But if there's another topic that excites you, by all means, go and do that one. I'm not going to be a cow about it. Okay.
No, this weather, this climate change is my baby.
Okay. Well, then grow the baby.
Will do.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much for attending. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And have a beautiful evening further.
You too.
Okay, bye.